welcome to the 15th edition of the School Improvement Services Podcast. My name is Gretchen Bruner. I'm the Executive Director of School Improvement Services. And with me, as always, is Sean Aker, our Student Success Coordinator. And we're going to start today with a couple of updates from Sean. Take it away.
Thanks, Gretchen. And so you're going to scroll, right? I'm
Yeah.
totally going to look at this.
I gotcha.
All right. Okay, yeah, thanks. I appreciate that. We have trainings going on every week, nearly every day. I counted, there's actually 15 between, so today is October 2nd when we're recording, and November 2nd. And on November 2nd, we actually have 2 or 3 different trainings, but we have 15 trainings going on between now and then, November 2nd. So lots going on. Yeah. A few things to clarify which have come up recently that I wanted to share out with the audience. I'll get a little closer to the mic here. First, as we continue to support teachers of students who are emerging bilingual, this came up recently, or bilingual or multilingual, it's important to consider the language shift in the approach. Mm-hmm. So formerly it was EL students is that was the term. Mm-hmm. EL puts an identity marker before the person. These are students. These are our students, and they are emerging bilingual or multilingual. So that's important to note. The other thing is that these students and all students benefit from school-wide English language. Mm-hmm. And so the approach is SWELL. That's the training that we're continuing to offer. And the next one is on October 26th. So it's some clarification there. Second, just to hit it again, Modern Classrooms Project.
Coming up.
Registration closes on the 10th of this month, and the cohort begins on the 16th. And educators who complete the full online cohort, not just the free modules, receive a $500 stipend. So registration links are in there. I listened to the recent podcast, and it was evaluating teacher wellness. And it just spoke about how as teachers typically, or educators, we don't take intentional time for our own wellness. Mm-hmm. And the podcast talks a little bit about that and how administrators or how building leaders can support that. It was great.
Educators are typically servants-oriented, and so we are into helping other people and forget about ourselves. Yep. And
so then I listened to another podcast, actually. The next podcast in my queue was from the Bright Mornings, Elena Aguilar. And it was called, it was an old podcast, actually, one I must have missed that just came up in my queue from July, Navigating Contagious Negativity. Mm-hmm. And so oftentimes we get into an environment, into a safe space, and we hear some negative comments around students or parents. And Elena talks about her experience and offers some strategies to disrupt it when it's happening. So
that's awesome.
Yeah, it was good. And those are short too. Those Elena Aguilar podcasts typically are around 17 to 20 minutes.
Can I share really quick, speaking of Elena Aguilar, there is a training coming up through the Regional Educators Network on I believe it's the 10th and 11th. Yeah. That is coaching through her work. And so it's an evening. Awesome. So if that's something that your teachers are interested in, sign them up.
Yeah. And I got interested in the podcast because our team went through the training. I gave up my seat to somebody who we hired on later and needed a seat. And so I have not officially gone through the training. I have gone through the books a little bit and definitely listening to the podcast and learning that way. And then we're practicing our team. So we're grounded in that work as well. Next, there are often requests for teams to come, or for our team to come out to our partner districts or schools and provide professional development or training locally. Mm-hmm. And that we really want to do that, and there are times when that really makes sense. Also, I want our partners to consider that we are also experiencing some limitations in our capacity to be able to do that. And so whenever it's possible, we really appreciate when our partner districts open their doors to these trainings to a broader regional set of educators. Mm-hmm. So example, level 1 behavior safety assessment training on October 27th in McMinnville. Mm-hmm. They've opened that up to the whole region. And so we really appreciate that. We're heading out to McMinnville, but it's open to the region. And so there's a link to that training in our court notes as well.
That's great.
Yeah. And thank you to our partners in McMinnville. And then lastly, if you are a person, if you're listening to this and you're charged with the responsibility of reporting on your district's integrated plan and you're unaware of the workshops and office hours available through the partnership with WESD and ODE, please reach out to me directly and I'll give you more details that way. I didn't want to put all those are not open to everybody. They're specific to the folks who are reporting on their plans. And as always, our professional development newsletter, it actually came out today, so it was ready a little bit ahead of schedule. Yep. So I've updated that in the court notes. A couple things to call out. The new there's a new offering, job-alike meeting. It's assistant principals or small school principal, secondary principals, job-alike meeting that's happening on the 5th, so Thursday of this week. Registration link is there. Collaborative problem solving, tier 1. This is happening on October 9th and 11th. Statewide in-service, we've got 3 or 4 separate events, all-day events. Level 1, safety assessment behavior training, literacy, the science of reading. With Amplify, actually, we've pivoted because the speaker from Solution Tree was not available. The Oregon Cell Standards and Framework, we'll have a full-day workshop there. And then a shorter workshop in the afternoon, increasing resilience through co-regulation when working with those impacted by trauma. 3 more to mention, and then the rest, just look at the court notes.
Still on the 13th, there's a few more, some offered through our tech department and some offered through communications, and I believe one other possibly through our Grow Your Own. So there's a few different things coming up, and those are listed for you on PD Networks.
Okay, and we will get the link in here.
Perfect.
Okay. Then just a few more things to highlight. On the 27th, the Early Literacy Success Grant Collaborative. That's October 24th. October 25th, K-5 Science Professional Development. So that's something for our science teachers. This is a science curriculum adoption year. Mm-hmm. And then on November 2nd and November 15th, it's a 2-day opportunity. It's a series for Tribal History, Shared History. So I mentioned before, 9 districts. I was wrong before, but it's 9 districts, 39 educators, and we want to expand that. We want all 21 districts with educators learning how to implement and spreading that throughout their districts.
And last spring, it was very well received.
Yeah.
We were excited about it. So.
Yeah. Just to mention also, I didn't highlight it, but Envoy. February 15th. People asked for that one. So it is happening February 15th. Registration is available now.
Perfect.
What about ODE updates?
All right. Well, so speaking of early literacy success grant application, I've added in a timeline that is here. Please note that there is support that is going to be coming from our agency. And so look for, if you need support in putting together your grant information, please reach out to Holly Dalton. More on that to come. Also, in the assessment and accountability update, just a reminder that the essential skills, and that's not your local performance assessments, but your essential skills are suspended throughout this year, which means it does still, the suspension of the assessment of the essential skills is in effect through 23-24, which means it does still apply to the school year. The current recommendation that's going to go through the board is that to extend that suspension through 27-28. There's also some training dates for assessment accountability in this issue. And just a reminder, again, that is essential skills. That's not your local assessments. And so if you need support with local assessments, we do still house OR Skills, which has some local performance assessments that you can use. There is not grading for those assessments at this time, but the assessments are there and available, and you can contact Katie Grauer, who kind of manages that section. So just something for you to check out. Health and physical education updates. There is a ton coming up for health. It is going to be an adoption year coming up, and so just making sure that you have all that you need to be ready for that adoption. We know that, sorry, my notes went away. We know that adoption in some districts could be difficult based on the standards. And we are underway and having discussions around how we can best support you through that adoption, how we can give you tips and tricks that have worked for some districts. I know Woodburn has a great section on their website that has all of their standards and curriculum, and it really makes it transparent for parents. They have the opportunity to opt out of specific standards in some of those pieces, so it keeps the student in the class, keeps them engaged in health. But if there are topics that aren't comfortable for parents, for whatever reason, it makes it available for them. And so really good transparency in that. And we're happy to share some of those things that have worked for districts and to help you build your own. So I've also linked in the weekly federal program hours. So those are there for you. Email came out, Aligning for Student Success. Your quarterly report, again, mentioned before, is due October 31st. Your CTE Perkins 5 is due October. Updates are due for schools by October 23rd. Your final Perkins EGIMS claim for 22-23 is November 15th. And the Perkins annual fiscal report is due on November 15th as well. And finally, for your integrated programs, quarter one report, I think I said that already, didn't I? Quarter one report is due on October 31st. I'll just say it again, just a good reminder.
Yeah, they've been having some technical issues making sure that all of the templates are open. Mm-hmm. Same thing with the literacy grant. They want everything kind of going through their platform. Mm-hmm. They're changing platforms on their EGIMS platform. So there are some things, and then just the capacity to pass all the grants takes a little bit to get through procurement on their side.
Right.
Or what is it?
Procurement.
Yeah, is it procurement?
Yeah,
okay.
You're good.
Oregon Justice Department.
Yep. All of those pieces. One of the things too that they mentioned in this email that came out is that the grant agreement must go before your board for approval before being fully executed. So just a reminder, with that said, spending under these agreements is allowable to the back date of July 1st, 2023, but just remember that needs to get in there so you can have your money in hand.
And not as a consent item, but open for comment. Mm-hmm. Yeah, separate item.
As an approval. Yep. Correct. There was also a link to the SIA financial audit suggested procedures. The presentation of the financial audits are due with the quarter two integrated programs report that is January 31st, 2023. So that's coming up as well. I have a few repeats from our last early indicator and intervention systems training, no cost to districts. That's an ODE training that's coming up, and there's multiple. There's a training flyer attached. There is an AP and IB update for fall of 2023 that I added in there. So your advanced placement and your international baccalaureate information.
You have so much in there, Gretchen.
There was a lot coming from ODE. They're kicking it. There's a mathematics update. That's a repeat. A repeat on the guidance on artificial intelligence in schools, which is super interesting.
Super interesting.
If you want to dig into that, my sci-fi movie loving loves AI and is terrified by it at the same time. So it's just really interesting. And then finally, your STIP budget narrative is due November 1st. Please make sure that you are getting that in. There's some drop-in hours too. All spending was due previously, so just make sure that you are ready for that. Your prerequisites were due earlier in the week, so just remember that the narrative is due on that November 1st. And any way that we can support you with any of these things, we are happy to do that. So just don't hesitate to get in contact with us. We will be back in a couple of weeks with another guest. Yeah. And thank you for joining us today. Take care.
Really appreciate it. And for those of you that are listening and you hear us giggle, if you're watching the video, you see like we might make a face like Gretchen lost her screen for a second, and just now I had to like ping somebody because I'm getting into another meeting, but like the Zoom is just spinning, so we're like these technical glitches come up, and so we giggle.
Right, and it's very typical of what we know you're experiencing every day in your schools. So all the things going on, and so like we said, if you need us, we're here. Available for you, getting on Zooms to be available for you, and we'll talk to you soon. Thank you so much. Have a great day.
Thank you.